Alrighty, let's see here. Give that just a second to stabilize. Cool. Hey there, everyone. Coach Mark here. Hope you all had a wonderful 4th of July. So, with this live, it's extemporaneous. I've just decided that with these, I'm not going to try and see if anyone shows up, wait for chat. So, if you've got questions, just drop them in the comments down below. I think that just makes this work a lot better than me trying to wait 10 seconds. Maybe someone shows up, blah, 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 blah. So, anyways, thesis for today, we're talking about 5 alternatives to speed work for the strongman athlete. Now, it's one of those big things, right? Obviously, I'm a conjugate guy. I love conjugate. Speed work is part of that. However, I do think there are times that speed work may not be the solution. If you cannot take a good position, for example, doesn't matter how much speed work you do, you're just getting into that sloppy position faster. You're not going to speed work your way to a deadlift if your deadlift is sub double body weight for the guys, for example. There are times you just need to focus on positional strength, more hypertrophy, general overall skill with technical movements, or simply work capacity, adding muscle. There's just better alternatives depending on the condition. With any training system, this is the case. It adapts, otherwise you're running someone else's program. So for example, let's say on your squat, you just lack confidence at the bottom of the squat. You cannot hit depth consistently. Spend 4 weeks doing something like 1.5 reps. Descend all the way down, come halfway up, back down, all the way up. That's going to help you gain more competence in the bottom phase of your squat than just doing speed work. So there's a nice sample 4-week wave for you. Pretty basic operation here. That's really what we're doing is I'm just showing you different things. I want you to start thinking about stuff like this with your own programming. Because if you can learn to master a position, you can chase better load in that position. Next up, let's say you just need to add more muscle mass, right? This is especially true for newer lifters. I think for newer lifters, speed work is not a good option. I just think basic volume work. So for example, we got a nice step load here. 3 sets of 8 to 10, 4 sets of 6 to 8, 5 sets of 5 to 7, and then 2 sets of 5 to 8. So week 4 is a little different there, and the reason why is we're bringing the volume down a fair bit just to act as a bit of a reset before moving into the next 4-week or 8-week wave, depending on how you're programmed out. I like 8-week waves. So for myself, for example, we do the first 4 weeks at these lower percentages, second 4 weeks at these higher percentages. It'd make for a really good, simple developmental block to help add muscle mass. Then let's say that your work capacity is no good. You're just gassing out prematurely, and it's a movement that's maybe a bit more technical. Just spend 4 weeks doing density work, accumulating max quality sets of the given rep. So for example, let's say your log is 200 pounds, week 1, you're just gonna do max sets of 4 at 140 pounds, building confidence and competence, building that work capacity, getting your cardiovascular engine, your conditioning engine better suited to the task at hand. That way you're not folding in half. And then by the end, you're getting some fairly heavy touches, but by reducing the overall reps per set, we make sure technique stays good. Because again, we don't want to ingrain bad technique in pursuit of more sets. Otherwise, you're really just circling right back to committing the same problem with your speed work. Maybe you just need to simplify things. You're tired of thinking. You just want to show up, put in the work. Here's a nice 4-week wave. I'm running this with a couple of my athletes right now for their pressing to help them build a little bit of upper body mass as well as help them refine their tech. Because it is fewer sets per rep, we can get away with that heavier loading and they're going to be able to maintain position better. So again, just a good overall development option right here. I do think if you're going to run this on deadlifts, you'd want to subtract a set or 2. I'm actually running this for my squats right now. It's been rough, but it's feeling really good. And then last but not least, maybe you're bored. You just need to switch up your training. Try wave loading. So for the first week, for example, you'll do a set of 7 at 62.5, a set of 5 at 65, set of 3 at 67.5. Then you're going to go and do a set of 7 with what you just did for 5, a set of 5 with what you just did for 3, and then a heavier set of 3 at 70%. This is a really fun way to train. I like wave loading. I think it's one of those ones. It sits really nicely in between a max effort or developmental wave, depending on how heavy you go. This wave, obviously, these 4 weeks, it's relatively low intensity. You don't get above 80%, but you get a lot of first sets. You get a lot of volume overall. I think this blends really nicely with both pressing and squatting. I don't like wave loading for deadlifts personally. I think it can be done. It's just not one that should be done for most applications, especially if you are a stronger deadlifter. I think this is too much. Also, changing the weight like that on a deadlift is just a pain in the ass. However, for log, presses, squatting. I think benching this would be really fun. Floor pressing this would be really fun. These waves just give you some really good ways. So again, these are just 5 different things you can do rather than running speed work, depending on what you need to improve as a strongman athlete. I'm not saying to throw away speed work, right? It has its place, it has its benefits, but even at Westside Barbell, you'll see traditional speed work develop dynamic effort work thrown out in favor of something like 5x5 when the lifter's needs call for it. And as always, if you just want to focus on effort rather than hyperfixating on all these nuances and details, well, consider reaching out for one-to-one coaching. But yeah, that's all I got for you folks. 5 simple alternatives to speed work you can try integrating in. That's 20 weeks of programming done and dusted for you. You're welcome. Have a great rest of your day. I'll see you folks next time.